morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin with today's headlines. President Pranab Mukherjee emphasizes importance of diversity in society at a banquet hosted for 54 African nations leaders. Says India and Africa share this perspective. Now historians join protest against alleged rising intolerance in society. Over 50 historians come out against the centre. Government says protests politically motivated. Last day of campaigning for fourth phase of the elections in Bihar. Prime Minister to address 2 rallies today. China scraps decades-old one-child policy, allowing couples to have 2 kids. Attempt to address rapidly aging population. As talks among international leaders on Syria crisis gets underway in Vienna, Saudi Arabia says Iran must accept removal of President Bashar al-Assad as part of any solution. Our top story, President Pranab Mukherjee has once again emphasized the significance of diversity in society. Now addressing a banquet hosted for leaders of 54 African nations after the summit on Thursday, Mukherjee said that diversity is in our lifeblood and that it ensures that we value coexistence, dialogue, mutual understanding and peace. He said that India and Africa share these perspectives on human development and that together the two can contribute to the rest of the world for handling conflict and crises.
Or the multiplicity of religions, ethnicities, tribes, languages, dialects and cultures. Africa has it all. So indeed does India. For Africa and India, diversity is our lifeblood. It enriches us and makes us even stronger. It ensures that we value coexistence, dialogue, mutual understanding and peace.
And earlier, when the Prime Minister addressed the inaugural session of the India-Africa Forum Summit, the thrust remained on the urgent need for UNSC reforms. He also offered a $10 billion soft loan to Africa over the next 5 years in the bid to further deepen ties with the region.
India and Africa must speak in one voice for reform of the United Nations, including its Security Council.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi strongly pitching for UNSC reforms. At the inaugural session of the India-Africa Forum Summit, the Prime Minister called on African nations to join hands with India in pressing for the long-standing demand.
Our global institutions reflect the circumstances of the century that we left behind, not the one we are in today. These institutions have served us well, but unless they adjust to the changing world, they risk becoming irrelevant.
Talking about the economy, Modi referred to India and Africa as 2 bright spots of hope and opportunities. And to strengthen their partnership, he offered a concessional credit of $10 billion to Africa over the next 5 years.
To add strength to our partnership, India will offer concessional credit of $10 billion over the next 5 years. This will be in addition to our ongoing credit program. We will also offer a grant assistance of $600 million.
External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj also spoke of India's long-standing, multifaceted partnership with Africa.
If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. We want to travel far on the path of development, and we want to travel together with our African friends and partners in that true spirit of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas.
This is the 3rd India-Africa Forum Summit. The first one was held in 2008, and since then, annual trade between the 2 regions has more than doubled to $72 billion.
Africa will remain at the center of our attention. Our engagement with Africa will remain intense and regular. I hope to see you here on bilateral visits, and I look forward to visiting all regions of Africa in the years ahead. Finally, I sincerely thank you, your delegations, and other distinguished visitors from Africa for being here. Thank you very much.
The initiative to invite all 54 heads of states of African nations has been well appreciated by heads of state themselves. This means that the right signal has gone, and it will be interesting to see how India and Africa can utilize for better future. Akhilesh Soman for Sabha television with camera person DK Pandey and Manoj in Delhi.
Now, the PM's forceful push for UNSC reforms drew support from several African leaders. They were of the opinion that India and Africa, which comprise nearly 1/3 of the world's population, can no longer be excluded from global institutions.
We are made dwarfs at the United Nations. But why should we accept it? 1/3 of the population of the world must be respected. Its rights must be respected. Its equality must be respected. Let us amend the Charter of the United Nations.
We also do hope that the United Nations will not celebrate many more decades without correcting the historic injustice as been expressed of excluding Africa and India from the Security Council.
Well, news from poll-bound Bihar. Well, the campaigning for the 4th phase of assembly polls will end at 5 p.m. today. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would wind up the campaign for the NDA, while Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and RJD Supremo Lalu Prasad would do the job for the Grand Alliance. Now, 55 constituencies in 7 districts will go to polls in the 4th phase on 1st of November. Now, 12 seats in Purvi Champaran, 11 in Muzaffarpur, 9 in Paschim Champaran, 8 each in Siwan and Sitamarhi, 6 in Gopalganj and 1 seat in Shiohar will go to polls in this phase. A total of 776 candidates are in the fray, with the maximum number of 30 candidates contesting from Kurhini Assembly seat, while minimum of 7 candidates each are contesting from Harsiddhi and Kesaria Assembly constituencies. Polling has already been held in 131 assembly seats in the first 3 phases on 12th, 16th and 28th of October. And polling for the 5th phase will take place on 5th of November, while the counting of votes will be done on 8th of November. And my colleague Kriti Mishra is now joining us from Patna. Kriti, good morning. It's really early in the morning, but it is going to be a hectic day. It is the last day of campaigning today. Tell us more about the campaigning and the rallies that are scheduled for today.
Right, so the poll drums would fall silent today in the evening. So all the parties are trying hard to woo the voters. So Mr. Modi, of course, for the NDA is expected to end this campaign, and he would address 2 meetings, one at Gopalganj and also Muzaffarpur, he would be addressing rallies. And also Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and RJD Supremo Lalu Prasad Yadav, they are also expected to address rallies for the Grand Alliance. We also saw Rahul Gandhi yesterday. He also addressed one rally. So as far as the campaign is concerned,
all right, we have lost contact with my colleague Kriti Mishra there. But remember, it is going to be the last day of campaigning. It is going to be a hectic day. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to address 2 rallies today. And Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad will be doing the job really for their camp as well, for the Mahagathbandhan. Remember, the 3 phases of elections are already over and the rest 2 are remaining. My colleague Kriti Mishra is with us again. Kriti, as you were saying, it is going to be a hectic day really. Prime Minister is going to address the 2 rallies. What else can we expect for the day?
Right, Ashwarya. So Prime Minister is expected to address 2 rallies today. one at Muzaffarpur and the other at Gopalganj. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and also RJD Chief Lalu Prasad Yadav, they would also address rallies today. And this is a very crucial phase because as many as 55 seats would go to polls now on 1st of November. So, of course, 3 phases over now. This is entering the final lap. So all the parties are trying hard to woo the voters and consolidate their vote banks. Over to you, Aishwarya.
All right, Kriti, you keep tracking all those developments in Patna. We'll keep coming back to you. So as my colleague Kriti Mishra is pointing out that ahead of the 4th phase of assembly elections in Bihar, now Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing 2 rallies in the state today. PM Modi is doing a balancing act between his ongoing poll campaign in Bihar and the Indo-Africa Summit in New Delhi. He will address a rally in Gopalganj early this morning at 9 a.m. and then in Muzaffarpur at around 10:30 a.m. Voting in these places is scheduled to take place in the 4th phase on 1st of November. After the rallies, PM Modi will be back in Delhi at around 2 p.m. from Patna to conduct bilateral meetings with the African heads of states. Well, on to some other news now. Well, after writers, artists, filmmakers and scientists, now historians have joined the protests over the alleged rise of intolerance in the country. Over 50 historians have come out strongly against Prime Minister Narendra Modi for not making any reassuring statement following concerns over highly vitiated atmosphere prevailing in the country. A total of 53 historians, including Romila Thapar, Irfan Habib, K.M. Panikar and Mridula Mukherjee, have in a joint statement raised their serious concerns over recent developments. The historians expressed concern over the silence of Prime Minister on the issue. The statement urged the state to ensure an atmosphere that is conducive to free and fearless expression, security for all sections of the society, and the safeguarding of the values and tradition of plurality that India had always cherished in the past. Well, the latest round of protests come after at least 36 writers returned their Sahitya Academy Awards. Following that, 10 filmmakers returned their national awards over the same issue. Now, scientists, including 3 Padma Bhushan recipients, Ashok Sen, PM Bhargav and P. Balram, announced their decision to return their awards as well.
इंडिया की जो पहला रजीम आया था उसने कुछ नई बातें की जिससे कि देश में बंटवारा बढ़ा, लेकिन वो इस हद तक नहीं गए थे जिस हद तक कि अब मोदी सरकार गई है कि हर इंस्टीट्यूशन का, हर संगठन में उन्होंने बिल्कुल राजनीतिक लोगों को, जो उनके संघ परिवार के लोग थे, उनको कर दिया.
We are deeply concerned that the delicate, secular, plural fabric of this country should not be torn asunder. We want it to be preserved because that is our historical legacy of our civilization as well as of our freedom struggle.
If something happened in Uttar Pradesh, it is the Uttar Pradesh government, Chief Minister, who is responsible. Law and order is a Uttar Pradesh government issue. If something happened in Maharashtra, at that time it was a Congress government. Law and order is a state issue. If something happened in Karnataka while Kalburgi was murdered, it was the responsibility of the Karnataka government. The Prime Minister condemned it. He has expressed concern. He has called upon the people to live with harmony. And then these people are trying to link everything with the government of India. This shows the political agenda of our political opponents.
And now let's take a look at what all events are lined up for the day in our day ahead. The Delhi High Court will pronounce its verdict on CAG audits of power distribution companies in the national capital. 3 private power discoms filed a plea in the Delhi High Court challenging the AAP government's decision of CAG audits of their accounts. The Supreme Court will hear the plea on environment compensation charge. CMYR Consortium LLP, which has been levying toll on behalf of MCD from commercial vehicles entering Delhi, that it cannot collect the court-mandated environment compensation charge from such vehicles. Earlier, the court ruled out to take environment charge from the commercial vehicles entering Delhi. The Supreme Court will hear the case of Uniform Civil Code today. The government is expected to seek more time from the Supreme Court on the issue to hold wider consultations with all stakeholders in the matter that will come up for hearing next week. Now, there is a clear view in the government that the Common Code can only be implemented after taking all stakeholders on board. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar will leave for Moscow today for a two-nation tour to Russia and Malaysia from 1st to 5th of November. Now, Parrikar, who will be on a three-day tour to Russia, will meet his Russian counterpart, Sergei Shoigu, to discuss a range of issues, which include joint production of Kamov Ka-226 Mi-17V5 helicopters and purchase of S-400 missile systems. He is also expected to discuss the possibility of manufacturing of the spare parts for Sukhoi fighter jets under the Make in India program. Ahead of the visit, the Indian Defence Acquisition Council cleared projects worth 12,000 crore, two of which were from Russia, worth 4,300 crore rupees. Parrikar's visit is seen as a step to prepare a stage for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit in December this year, where several deals are expected to be finalized. From Moscow, the Defence Minister will head to Malaysia for the ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting, which will be held from 3rd to 5th of November. And Pakistan High Commissioner to India Abdul Basit has said that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif wants better relations with India. Speaking at an event in Bangalore, Basit said that there is no disconnect between Pakistan government and its army. However, Basit said that policies are made on the basis of inputs gathered by the security and intelligence agencies. Basit also hoped that Pakistan gets a good response on the issue so that both countries begin a new journey. The Pakistan High Commissioner said that there is a big propaganda in India which hides the truth about the strengthening of democracy in Pakistan. He said that the country boasts of having free and independent media and judiciary. Basit said that there were some people who do not want the ties to be improved, but at the same time, there were others who were keen on it.
अक्सरियत पाकिस्तान में भी और भारत में भी उन लोगों की है जो ये चाहते हैं कि हमारे दोनों ममालिक के दरमियान ताल्लुकात बेहतर हों, हमारे तनाज़ात हल हों और हम एक अच्छे दोस्तों की तरह, भाइयों की तरह, एक अच्छे हम पड़ोसियों की तरह एक दूसरे के साथ रहें.
Now, news on ongoing crisis in Syria. Well, ahead of the crucial peace talks in Vienna, the UN chief urged participants to show flexibility. Now, his appeal came in the wake of US sticking to its demand on Syrian President Assad's exit from power. Saudi Arabia also supported the US demand and insisted that Iran must accept Assad's exit. Meanwhile, the US Secretary of State John Kerry is holding meetings with his counterparts from several countries in an attempt to find a political solution to the ongoing Syrian crisis.
Hopes are high as Syrian allies Iran and Russia come together on the negotiating table with the West to find a political solution to Syrian crisis. EU Foreign Policy Chief called the meeting a breakthrough.
I just had a bilateral meeting with Minister Zarif. I believe it is very important that tomorrow here in Vienna we will have all the relevant actors, both regionally and internationally, relevant actors playing around the same table, trying to define a common space for the beginning of a political process to find a solution to the crisis in Syria.
Preparatory meetings are on full swing. US Secretary of State John Kerry held talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov and foreign ministers of Turkey and Saudi Arabia. US remains adamant on its stand. They say Syrian President Bashar al-Assad cannot be part of the solution to the ongoing Syrian crisis. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia insisted that Iran must accept removal of Assad. The United Nations called for flexibility in talks.
There is a feeling that military formulas are leading nowhere. Even the Russian intervention, as you know, which has been a game changer and perhaps has contributed to the acceleration of a political diplomatic journey, definitely, is realizing that without a parallel political, creative, concrete, substantive, transformative type of governance in Syria, we will not be able to end this conflict.
The meeting in Vienna would see if there is any movement towards a compromise. The Saudis and the Western powers see Assad as a threat, but for Russians and Iranians, he is a vital partner. Now, the major point of contention would be on what role Assad should be allowed to play in a political transition in the country. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And big news coming in from China. Well, the country has decided to scrap its decades-long one-child policy. The state-run news agency said that now the couples would be allowed to have 2 children. Now, officials said that China's aging population has led to the pressure for change. However, majority say that it is a decision too late, as having one child has become part of the social norm in the country.
After long 3 decades, China has decided to end its one-child policy. Now couples will be allowed to have 2 children legally. But for many, the 2-child policy is too little, too late. And it would not solve the country's problem of having a massive aging population. Out of China's 1.36 billion population, 30% is over the age of 50.
But in terms of the personal choice, unless the government follows up these measures with a variety of measures like reducing the cost of schooling or housing or many of those things, I just don't see them taking up on it and to the degree. We will have to see what else the government needs to offer. They can't just say, okay, you can have another one and that's that, and people will.
China says the decision is aimed at alleviating demographic strains on the country's economy. For the first time in decades, the working age population fell in 2012 in China, and reports suggest that it could be the first country in the world to get old even before it gets rich. But mixed reactions poured in. White House welcomed China's decision but called for further change.
While this recent policy change does represent a positive step, we also look forward to the day when birth limits are abandoned altogether. And the United States and our work around the world continues to oppose coercive birth limitation policies, including things like forced abortion and sterilizations.
对，我觉得现在放开实际上是一个比较恰当的时候。现在人我们整体老年化也在上升，然后青年一代其实整个比重也都在下降。这时候大家都其实都。
The one-child policy was introduced in China in 1979 to control the population growth rate. It is estimated to have prevented nearly 400 million births. Couples who violated the one-child policy faced a variety of punishments, from fines and the loss of employment to forced abortions. With rising social costs and falling working force, China hopes that the introduction of a 2-child policy might help reduce the stress that the country is facing with an aging population. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And more international news and updates in World Wrap. The Chinese and the US navies held high-level talks on a Thursday, wherein both sides agreed to maintain dialogue and follow protocols to avoid clashes. The talks by video conference were called to calm tensions after Beijing rebuked Washington for sending a guided missile destroyer within 12 nautical miles of one of China's man-made islands in South China Sea's Spratly Archipelago on Tuesday. Meanwhile, an international arbitration panel has ruled that it can hear a case brought by the Philippines in its territorial dispute with China involving a group of islands in the South China Sea. The Permanent Court of Arbitration rejected China's argument that the dispute was about sovereignty and so beyond its remit. It will now begin hearings on the case's merits under a UN convention. China's claims on the South China Sea are contested by its Asian neighbors. The US Navy scrambled 4 FA-18 jets to intercept Russian warplanes which flew near a US aircraft carrier off the Korean peninsula. The Russian planes flew close to the USS Ronald Reagan during a joint military exercise with South Korea. The incident took place in international waters and airspace in the Sea of Japan on Wednesday. South Korean military aircraft first intercepted the Russian planes before the US jets escorted them from the sea. An opposition rally in Myanmar has been attacked by men wielding knives and swords. The attack comes just days before a historic election in the country. The National League for Democracy was holding a rally in Yangon City when the attack took place. The sitting MP was rushed to hospital and several people have been arrested. Remember, the poll on 8th of November is said to be the country's first openly contested general election in 25 years. The NLD is expected to win most of the seats. Let's now get you all the sporting action in Sports Beat. The Indo-Polish pair of Leander Paes and Łukasz Kubot bowed out of the Valencia Open with a straight-set loss in the men's doubles quarterfinals. Paes-Kubot lost to the unseeded Australian-Brazilian pair of Chris Gucoin and Andre Sa 6-7, 4-6. Vishwanathan Anand drew his third game in a row in the Bilbao Masters final chess tournament. Five-time world champion drew against tournament leader Velsis of America to remain joint second at the halfway stage. The defending champion Anand has now 3 points under the soccer-like scoring system and is now under some pressure to carve out a win in the next 3 rounds. The Badminton Association of India announced that it will conduct the second edition of the Indian Badminton League from 2nd to 17th of January next year without the support of any external agency. The league is under legal trouble after its commercial partners Sporty Solutions went to court trying to protect its intellectual property rights. But BAI said that their contract had been cancelled. Top seed Roger Federer reached the quarterfinal of the Basel International with a 3-set win over Germany's Philipp Kohlschreiber. The 6-time Basel champion won 6-4, 4-6, 6-4. Federer will play David Goffin of Belgium in the quarterfinals now. That's all in this edition of Breakfast News, but news and updates continue on your channel, so keep watching Rajya TV.